Hello, everyone. I am Nick. This is Chris. Welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is July the 3rd of 2019. Independence Eve.
We haven't truly earned our independence yet, Nick.
No, it's...
Not until tomorrow.
America's not free yet.
Mm-hmm.
No. We have to wait until sunrise.
Yes. And then we can do whatever we want, Nick. It's the purge.
That's not what that means.
I might be thinking the game the two holidays crossed over, but I've already made plans, a lot of very aggressive ones for tomorrow, so I can't cancel them at this point.
I mean, the last time that someone celebrated the purge on Independence Day, I had to call the cops on some people. That's a true story. I'll tell it sometime. But
I was gonna say, did they do a purge on Independence Day or no? It's just because there's a lot
just here in Florida. It's cool.
Okay. Well, if
it's the purge every day here in Florida, so
its own kind of purge, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Purge of old people and drug addicts to the America's dong state.
Do you ever feel empowered being in America's dong?
No, not really.
Is there a machismo for being in the state shaped like a penis?
No. I don't really think about it unless it's to make a joke about how shitty Florida is.
Yeah.
But then again, anywhere I were to live right now, I'd be like, this place is shitty. Because I just, I don't know. I don't place a lot of pride in the locations I live in. So
we were just talking about how joy is a very difficult thing to suss from you. Mm-hmm. So I have trouble finding your enthusiasm for a lot of things, particularly when it's something as mundane as like being proud of a city you're from or something like that.
That's kind of the thing is, Chris, I'm probably the reason why we're not bigger than we actually are, because I don't have it in me to, garner up that fake enthusiasm and be like, come on guys. All right. Smash that like button. It's your boy Nick here with Nicky D or whatever the fuck. Here to bring you a new video on this thing that I cover 20 times a day, but this one still got me super enthusiastic. Oh yeah, fist bump through the screen. And I'm not that kind of person, so I'm sorry, Chris. I'm to blame for us not getting them likes and subscribes.
You know what? We're in this together. If one of us falters, we both take the fall. That's the kind of relationship we're in. So guys, smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe.
Okay.
Leave a comment down below. What else do YouTubers say? I assume some of them just, a lot of them are Nazis. So
support us.
I guess there's that.
Send me money on PayPal.
I got lewds on Snapchat.
Send nudes.
Yeah, you can get some of those. You do ASMR, so I'm like, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Well, Chris, we do ASMR every day, though.
Yeah, to ourselves, basically.
Yeah, that's the entire purpose of Weekly Manga Recap, is so that we can hear each other's sensuous voices.
Mm-hmm. And ultimately, when you're talking about ASMR, it's pretty convenient. There's a really good connecting tissue to that in the manga we're going to be discussing this week. Nick, what is that reason?
I don't know.
No, I just wanted to throw a segue to you.
I was like,
possibly have an answer to.
I was like, are we talking about a silent voice again?
No, we're gonna be talking about manga. Let's just get right into it, Nick. Let's start talking about My Hero Academia.
Well, there's no My Hero Academia this week, Chris.
Let's start talking about Food Wars then, Nick.
Food Wars already ended, Chris, and we don't have one of the epilogue chapters this week. So
what are we gonna do?
So, Chris, I hate to put you in the spotlight all of a sudden, but you're on the hot seat, man. You've got to begin by talking about Eden Zero.
This is uncomfortable. I'm not a fan of this.
Normally,
whatsoever.
I ease us into it before we have you take it up, but no, sorry, man. You gotta get the ball rolling.
All right. We're gonna talk about chapter 41. Sorry, 51. Fuck.
Oh no!
Cancel
It's okay, Chris.
Nick.
It's okay.
This is going to be chapter 51 of Eden Zero, Stones. And Happy's hugging a fish on the cover of the chapter. He's very happy. Good for him. Listen,
Rebecca's not comfortable in that bed.
Yeah.
That bed, the springs are broken, Chris. The bed is collapsing. He's
Yeah.
not going to have any support.
You know, and it's a shame because she seems really comfortable. Like she got dressed up to lay on her bed.
Yeah, in her leather boots.
Her presumably leather boots and a dress so skin tight you can make out her navel within it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's usually the bed that's usually what I wear to bed too. So
See, that's the thing is that you're meant to think that it's a seductive pose that she's making because, she's making the bedroom eyes and she's got her arms over her head. Really, what's happening is that she's struggling to stay fully cognizant because she can't breathe. And so she's lifting her arms above her head in order to open up her ribs and breathe better.
So this is actually a cry for help.
Yes.
It's actually a tragic scene. And Happy, so
Not doing
high,
anything to help.
so high on the cocaine that is holding the fish that he can't even recognize that his friend's life is in peril.
His best friend is in danger. This is what fish are doing to him, and this guy wants a bunch of fish for his wish from the queen of the universe, or whatever she is.
This is truly one of the greatest American tragedies we're seeing in this first panel here, even though it's from Japan. All right, so let's talk about Sun Jewel. That's the name. I was trying to remember the name of the planet. Sun Jewel, I believe, is the name of it. The heroes arrived here before because Homura is looking for Valkyrie, and they went to a casino, and it was being robbed at the time. So Shiki and Homura fought back, and then a giant beam from heaven blew up all the bad guys and just left a giant crimson spot on the ground where they stood. And we found out that it's all about this person called Madame Kurenai, who renders judgment from above, basically.
Yep.
So our chapter opens up as these two seraphim kind of looking angel armor.
They're robots.
Dudes. They're robots. They look like tiny bird people. I don't know exactly what they are, but they show up and they're like, "Fear not, everybody. We are here to punish evil and defend the innocent." And they're like, "Oh, cool. You guys are the good guys." But they're like, "And we must render judgment on the two of you criminals," referring to Shiki and Homura, who are like, "Hey, what do you mean? All we did was, fight back when a bunch of people tried to rob all of us." And they're like, "Yeah, well, regardless of whatever reason it is that you do something, violence is always a crime. Ergo, you are being sentenced."
Ain't no stand your ground law in this state.
So two giant beams of light shine out, and one of them hit each of them, and it follows them no matter where they go. They can't run away from all of it, and they are, quote, sentenced to 100,000 metals. And then everyone's horrified.
That sounds like a great punishment.
Yeah, you get to listen everyone's very sad because they think that the two of them have been eviscerated, but then the robot bird people are like, nope, they've been sent away to the labor district as sub-criminals, and if they can mine 100,000 metals of our planet's natural ore, then they may return to our region. So they've been sent away, and I guess that's why Rebecca didn't do anything. It's really hard to not call her Lucy in certain panels, because when her hair's cropped the right way,
right,
you really can't tell that it's not Lucy that you're staring at. But I guess that's why Rebecca didn't do anything. More so
I don't think she knew.
Well, no, I know. I don't think she knew, but I mean, from a narrative point,
oh, gotcha.
They wanted one person to not be sent over to the labor district. So presumably, I guess that's why she didn't decide to fight back in any way, shape, or form. Or she's just worthless. Who knows? I mean, could be one or the other. Shiki and Homura wake up a little bit later. They've been transported somewhere else, and they have a collar around their necks now. And
it's going to take away their mutant powers.
Because that's all you need. You just need one little collar or sometimes a shot, and you can take away everybody's mutant powers completely. And Nick, did you see the newest X-Men movie?
No.
I'm worried to see it because I've listened to people whose opinion I trust say that they're like, I would rather watch X-Men: The Last Stand again before I watched the new X-Men again. And I was like, I can't even fathom that. They're like, it's just so boring and not good. I'm like, But I saw X-Men: The Last Stand. That was really bad too.
So out of like you're like, I don't know if I trust that it is that bad.
I'm almost scared to watch. I'm like, how bad is the new X-Men movie? They're like, it's not as bad as Last Stand. It's just nowhere near as entertaining. You won't even get a reaction out of it, you know?
Right, right.
And I'm like, so they have these collars around their neck. They see 1,000 on it, and then there's a cave in front of them, and suddenly a bunch of bugs come crawling out with little, basically they look like almost rubies from Legend of Zelda, like have rubies growing out of their back. And there's a whole bunch of bugs, and I forget if this was ever established somewhere else. Maybe it was, but I guess Shiki has
I don't recall it being
a natural fear of bugs. He just faints. Shiki just faints outright. Homura tries to fight against a whole bunch of them. She succeeds. She actually cuts one of their gems off, and she doesn't seem to notice it, but the collar on her neck like ticks down one in response. So that's what they mean when they say minor horrors. But there's too many of them, as we see from a shot positioned right beneath Homura's legs from behind. So we see directly underneath her crotch, which is always, it's a very strong artistic choice from Hiro. I appreciate that.
right.
But then a bunch of guys come in. It's a lucha guy, a guy with a stupid hat, and I think
Mutton chops.
no, the guy with the stupid hat, and then Scott Dawson from WWE's The Revival. Is
Right,
the other
right.
guy.
Mutton chops.
Yeah. Well, he has the full mutton chops to mustache combo, and that's the key thing. That's really a style that needs to come back. They all have this weird gimmick where they say 1 + 2 makes 1,000,000 power, and they kill a bunch of bugs. The last guy says he doesn't understand why they say that, but he does anyway. And they explain everything that's going on to Homura and Shiki, that they're here, they're sub-criminals, they have to hunt these bugs. The ones that they saw there were the smallest kind, and it's actually super ineffective to try to like mine all the metal from them. So they got to go hunt the bigger ones and the stronger ones. And there's some that are even, quote, kaiju beast size. So it's kind of dangerous. I guess there's going to be some really big ones there.
I'm sure that Shiki will punch it and everything will be fine.
I don't know, Nick. They said kaiju beast size. That's really big.
Yeah.
You know?
I can't imagine why Shiki's not being allowed to fight any of the weak ones. It's like he'll have to do all 100,000 in one burst or something.
Nick, are you insinuating they would create a task as impossibly large as getting a full 100,000 metal in a single go, and then just having the character effortlessly do it in one chapter?
I mean, I'm saying that Eden Zero would do that with Shiki.
All right, well, we'll see. And you're right, I'm sure. So they walk by and
just take all the tension out of it. Yeah, you're probably right.
that exactly as Jack Quick says, it would be like defeating 100 monsters at once.
I will fight all of the monsters in the tower. Let's just cut away and come back when I've done it.
I did it. It was hard. So we then cut over to some guy kicking a dude and being like, you need to pick up your pace, you know? Basically an Amazon worker. He just like starts kicking him. He's like, hey man, you haven't been meeting your quotas. What's going on? Pissing this bottle. Ain't nobody got time for those bathroom breaks. And Shiki, because this guy is not a bug, does not faint. And instead...
Hey, that guy's my friend, I've just decided.
Yeah, this guy's my friend. Specifically, this guy who's beating him up is the warden who works directly underneath Madame Koronai, whose name is Benziton Garot, the Scourge of Heaven.
Benzai, what are you doing here?
It's me, guys. Oh, shit, that has to be his voice. It's me, guys. I'm just kicking this schmuck over here.
I'm the Scourge of Heaven.
I'm wearing my mankind mask. So Gajeel is like, hey, who the hell are you? And they're like, hey, we're gonna not let you beat up this guy. That's where the chapter ends, as we watched the spy owl from the last chapter, watch this scene as well.
It's an odd chapter, honestly. It's
a
oddly paced and it ends on an odd point.
It ends on an odd point. We don't actually, I think, do we actually even learn the name of the 3 new characters that show up?
I don't think so.
The
So
3
Scott
hunters?
Dawson, Kinnikuman, and
Oh, what's the name of the kid with the stupid hat and World Trigger? Taichi?
yeah,
Yeah, Taichi. Call that. His hat's really stupid.
he's got a gun that looks about the right kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's sort of an odd chapter like that. The ending's a bit strange. Like, I could see why we're getting introduced to this kind of character, because this is just the kind of series, like, Hero just likes to write these sorts of characters to be the antagonist for the hero to face. So, we shall see. Not a bad chapter, just not kind of a drop down from last week where things were a lot more better paced.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all right, Nick, you take over. I can't do the start of the episode shit anymore. That's
All right, man. Okay, well, you catch your breath then. We are going to head over to, let's see, what is it? What is the first freaking one that I have to do here? Hang on a second.
Go with what your heart tells you.
What my heart tells me to?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my heart tells me that we've got to take a look at the newer series at this point.
Mm-hmm.
There was a chapter of Beast Children. Again, they explained the rules of rugby, Chris.
Oh!
Yeah, they explained how you score a goal or a touchdown or whatever it's called.
You kick the Dusselhassel in, right?
Yeah, it's exactly. You put the quaffle through the hoop. Yeah.
Yep. And then you badminton it all the way around the ring.
Mm-hmm. And then you get a headshot.
Yep. You've scored 1 Wazzlehoozle then.
Yeah, so our hero was happy to play a rugby and to do a tackle.
It's very satisfying, you know? Like when I Show 21 did this. And was better.
That's kind of like a great criticism to level against the series. Like, I Show 21 was better.
I don't want to keep saying it, but man,
it was.
You know, like it's hard not to read this series that's like, hey, we're going to take a sport that's also very alien to a lot of, especially to like Japan and like the sports popular in Japan, and portray it in sport very similar to American football, that the main character is also a extremely short character whose strength is in his legs, and you know, plays sort of like a running
Look,
position.
he did a dash that was really fast.
Yeah, and you're like, I mean, come on, guys, you had to have seen this, right? Someone had to have been like, you read Ice Shield, right? It was super popular for this series. The guy who wrote it's still in the magazine.
Not that, you know, Senna is anything like the protagonist in this, like,
no,
personality.
Yeah, but like in terms of like the flavor of the character, they're very spot on. So it's hard not to make the comparisons. And you'll notice that despite the fact that they introduced an entire team of characters 3 chapters ago, we have not met a single one of them that isn't the team captain at this point.
Like, we haven't gotten to know any of them.
None of them have a personality or really much of a name to themselves yet.
We met the manager, though. I mean, that's nice.
Yeah, we know the manager now. Good for her. I'm sure she'll be a very important character in this series.
All right, let's move on to Samurai 8, Chapter 8. Meet your fate. Go on a date.
Oh, everything rhymed this week? Hey, that chapter name's wrong. I'm looking at it now.
We can't wait. We have to take it slowly.
Actually, you made it all. That was a sonnet you just wrote there. Nick, you could be the next Mike Posner.
No.
Nick, if
Let
I
me
offer
count the
you...
reasons why. I have 8 of them, Chris. 8 reasons why I don't want to do that.
Okay, I'm listening. We're going to play this bit out, Nick. What's reason number 1?
He's Mike Posner.
Okay.
2.
Reason number 2. It better not be the same as reason 1.
If we're going to be talking about rappers, by the way, I want to go ahead and say it's like when I grow up, I want to be Lil Nas X, even though he's like a decade younger than me.
I'd also like to note it was very charitable for you to call Mike Posner a rapper.
What is he? I don't even know.
He's a pop guy. He did that song Cooler Than You. Or Cooler Than Me.
Cooler Than Me.
Yeah.
I've been freed from my obligation to explain the rest because I corrected you.
True. All right, that's the rules. I don't make them. I just have to follow them.
Samurai 8. So, there's a villains in the Akatsuki meeting place, and they're like, "Oh, it's beautiful power. Bye." This will be important later. Anyway, so Hachimaru has just met his fated princess, An, and Hachimaru celebrates, and he's like, "All right, now that you're here, and my holder is here, the whole Trinity is together, so I'll get a lot stronger. Nice to meet you. What was your name again?" And An's just like, and just kind of like turns away from him, and she even says, "Hmm." So honestly, there are a couple of moments in this chapter where I'm like, "Yeah, good for you." When she just treats Hachimaru like shit because he's being such a jackass about everything. So he tries to flash back to what Dharma told him about fate, and then is like, "Wait, I wasn't listening hard enough. I don't remember what he said."
It's probably the only joke that's come across particularly good when he starts trying to imagine the conversation and he just can't.
Wait, it's when your subconscious. Wait, what was the rest of what he said?
It's when your subconscious meow 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 meow. Damn it! I did it again.
Something about underwear. So Hachimaru tries to go over to Dharma and say, "We're fated, like, doesn't that mean that we have to be nice and friendly and stuff?" And Dharma's like, "No. In fact, it looks like you got completely rejected. You got shot down, bro." And Dharma explains that just because they're together doesn't mean jack shit. He's actually got to, do the right stuff. Anyway, he approaches, oh god, there's too many H names in this goddamn series. Okay, it's I wrote it down, hang on. Hagamichi. He approaches Hagamichi and An, and says, "Hey, listen, like, it's okay, look, I'm mentoring Hachimaru." And then he bows to An and says, "My apprentice has been rude. Please overlook that and tell us your name." And An, after some stuttering, says her name is An. And Dharma proves to be like the smoothest, coolest guy in the universe, because he's like, it is derived from the characters and which is like Alpha and Omega, a splendid name that bookends all of creation. And she's like, "Oh, you're so nice." And it's like, "Wow, okay. Dharma's really cool all of a sudden."
I was gonna say, for any young guys listening who think that might be a good idea to try on their first date, I guarantee you that will not be.
No.
If she's like, "My name's Jessica," like, Jessica, born from the middle-aged Cheskaya. Of course, origins from Greece when you go back and trace it to the Latin origin.
This only works if you're an old, wizened cat samurai.
Exactly.
Don't try it unless you're all four of those things.
It's the old cat samurai rules. We don't make them, guys, but we have to follow them.
So she's like, oh, thank you. And Hachimaru immediately cuts it and it's like, "Yeah, my master's pretty boring, isn't he?" Read the room.
Hey, have I told you about my last time playing Xbox?
I got all the unlockables.
I got like 7 achievements because I'm the cool one.
Jesus Christ. Fuck this kid. So Hagamichi proposes that he take Hachimaru, and he's like, "Oh, he calls Dharma Cat Samurai," which is just like, why don't you ask him his name, since we're all introducing ourselves here in this moment instead of just calling him Cat Samurai. Dharma says, "Hey, maybe if you're gonna say stuff like, 'Oh, he needs a proper master,' maybe you need a master because you do not see with your mind's eye." And he's like, "What do you mean?" Dharma identifies himself using his head thing, the thing that comes out of his spine. And Hagamichi immediately apologizes, recognizing him. And of course, this shows An and Hachimaru that Dharma is really important and well thought of and stuff. We cut over briefly to Hachimaru's father, who has just now realized that, they flew off on jet dogs and aren't here anymore.
God damn
Be a little
it.
while. They've been gone for hours, dude. Like,
It's just him, like, sitting in a chair next to the window, be like, I should turn my head slightly to the right to make sure my son's still outside. But that's
he's not!
But that's too much work for me. Another hour, perhaps.
Is this what happened to Yuhabak after he was killed ages ago?
he got old, his nose got very large, and then he adopted a little kid.
Yeah, he's a good guy now.
Yeah, he hangs out on a farm.
If I get to do my Foghorn Leghorn voice, then I'll do it. Whatever.
It's all for you, Nick. For Hachimaru's dad, who I'm sure will be a very important character.
At least we'll probably have time to find that out. Hagamichi contacts Princess Anne, or Un. There's too many similar names. Princess Un, the one who was in charge of the princess train station and stuff. Anyway, and Hagamichi just reports back to her and it's like, yeah, I guess we're going to let Dharma mentor him, but we'll stay here for a little while too. She says that An should remain behind as well, and that because she can also improve her abilities while they're hanging out there. So Dharma takes everybody back to his hideout. It's a very bizarre Naruto cave. Like, it looks as though freaking Pain or Orochimaru could be hanging out in it. So there's, like floating spheres and stuff. There's a waterfall for some reason. And they're like, all right, let's have food. But An remembers part of her princess training that she has to be kind to her samurai, and so she asks Dharma if he's got any ingredients, and she gets this bizarre kind of glop together. In fact, it makes sounds such as bloop and glorp as it is plopped down in front of everyone. And in fact, while it's just sitting there, it's just slowly bubbling. I like the reactions that the three of them have, because Hagamichi and Hachimaru both are just like, I don't know if this is edible. But Dharma is just like, ooh, food. And he's got his paws clasped in front of his mouth. And of course, he's the first one to dig in. And Hachimaru's like, Master, I can't believe you ate this stuff. And he's like, it's really good. And like, they eat it and they're like, oh, it's good. Wow.
I just assumed because you made it be trash. And you just seem like you're bad at everything. By the way, did I tell you about my Xbox yesterday? 3 times so far, Hachimaru. Yeah, but I tell you about it today.
I kind of want to see Hachimaru and Boruto in the same room together.
I mean, they're basically the same character, except one's actually had character development yet.
Give him a little bit of time.
Yeah.
We'll see. Hachimaru again acts like a dick because he immediately is just like, hey, An, I'll have some more food now. And she's like, get it yourself.
What? I'm being made to get my own food? Like some kind of not princess person?
It's an odd kind of moment after that point, though, because like Hachimaru like slumps. He's like, oh, I've been rejected again. And as soon as she's around the corner, An starts like giggling to herself. I don't know. It's kind of weird because it's hard to tell if she likes Hachimaru or not.
I think she's happy that everyone liked her food, but she's still trying to be like, she's not trying to show that to anybody. She's keeping that to herself, but she's kind of enjoying everything. But she's going to be this kind of standoffish because she doesn't like Hachimaru yet, which is reasonable because he's
an asshole.
Dickhead. Yeah. I do think it's like, isn't it kind of weird? Like, did they describe what princesses do besides be housewives in this series so far?
Not
like,
really. I'm sure that there's going to be more explanation because we've had a lot of chapters of explanation as to how samurai work. But Samurai 8's been getting clearly pushed pretty hard by Shonen Jump so far. So clearly Kishimoto's like, I got time to explain this shit. So he's going to take his fucking sweet time doing it.
Because I'm trying to think of the only things we've seen them do besides being told they're very important to samurai. And I was like, we've only seen them cook and do flower arranging. I was
Right.
like, and I'm not sure how either of those are supposed to actually aid samurai in their quest for key
Right.
swords or whatever.
I mean, in fairness, it's been 2 chapters since the concept was introduced, but those are 3 of 8 chapters so far.
Yeah.
So, and also holders, it seemed like the concept was introduced and explained very quickly by comparison. So after food, Hachimaru tries to practice with forming his chakra into a sword again. And he actually gets the blade to come out straight instead of it drooping over all flaccidly again. And he celebrates his achievement, and Anna is watching the proceedings along with Dharma, and she's like, why is he so happy about that? And Dharma's like, yeah, he's already failed at this a lot of times. It's not the same as your cooking. And An says, actually, no one's eaten my cooking before. And she says that she's always used to failing at what she does, so I put on a bold face, just like I did around Hachimaru. And Dharma says a pretty long but pretty impressive speech here, because he says that, yeah, he's the same way. I think that you're a better princess than he is a samurai. And she asks him, what, are you sure about that? Like, do your eyes work at all? And he says, no, they don't. He says, my eyes don't work at all, but there are times when I can see everything. The ah and the un. Ah signifies the beginning and un is the end, but everything else lies in between the two sounds. In other words, it is not easy for them to connect. Nothing will come easily, but that is normal. There's no need to rush. It will all work out in time. Meaning, take it slowly! And he shouts at Hachimaru. I think he's shouting because it's his word bubble's all bold and it's showing him from the distance. So
yeah,
it's a cool speech. I really like it.
It's a good sentiment to have. Look, if this is the direction we're going, then it's good that we at least start off on rocky ground. And you need a mentor character or some older character to step in, or more mature, I guess, to say hey, you guys are going to have at least a professional working relationship. And right now, things between you may not be great, but they're going to get better. It's very difficult to connect with people right off the bat, but everything, like this can be improved with time. So you just got to keep working at it. It's a good sentiment to share. And it makes Daruma, a lot cooler of a character. I'm actually able to get, a lot more of a sense for his, identity as a character at this point. It's just... And I know a lot of people in the chat and in general seem to really like An. And I don't have anything necessarily against her. I just don't care about either of these kids and their stupid quest. So, while the speech is cool, I don't actually care about the end result of it.
Yep.
I'm at this point where if it weren't for the fact that we do it for the podcast, I would not be reading Samurai 8 whatsoever. I cannot get into this series for whatever reason.
Well, it wouldn't be the first series that's like that we cover. So
yeah.
And we see that the guy who was in the space meeting evil dude with the mask is flying through space, and he goes straight through a meteoroid, and he's like, obnoxious meteoroid clouds. It's a bunch of rocks, dude. They don't have a personality.
Ooh, curse you, obfuscating space debris!
Curse you, space rocks. I'll get you for this.
Damn you and your tepid responses!
Anyway, let's talk about Last Saiyuki.
Let's do it, Nick.
It's chapter 17, Stasis. So we get a flashback from binary hair dudes. I forget his entire name during this entire chapter. Despite the fact that he's the entire focus of this chapter, I don't remember his name.
His name
Sorry.
I feel like it's Gone or something like that.
No. So
I just guessed the name and I thought maybe I'd be right. I took a shot in the dark, Nick.
Basically, we get some insight into his connection with Estelle. This entire chapter basically is about him being in denial about the fact that he cares for her. And has a fatherly relationship with her, considering that he took her under his wing after her mother died, and essentially the problem that he sees is the fact that Etoile had a flaw as an evolved human because you can't have emotions when you're going closer to the true human form. Uh, but she cared about her daughter, and she ended up being killed by a monster that she would normally have been able to defeat because of her weakness. He fights with the Plague Doctor Mask guy, uh, is cutting through him a whole lot, but the guy is held together by his Nyoibo. And the guy mocks him because he sees through his act, saying like, I know that you care about her. You've got an emotion inside of you that you're trying to bury, but you're not a perfect unit. You've got those emotions that are holding you back. As long as you have that consideration for others, your blade cannot kill me, and you cannot go any further in your attainment. But at that moment, the Kurori that the children defeated cries out, or it doesn't cry out. They hear basically the baseball slash kill it. And so Plague Doctor guy's like, all right, I've delayed you long enough, so I guess I better get going. And he says, you may act all nonchalant, but you've been dying to go and check on your precious disciples, haven't you? He lowers his weapon and is like, yeah, I suppose so. The Plague Doctor guy tries to attack him. He dodges it and cuts his fucking head off. It's a pretty badass panel, I will say. But the guy's head goes flying, and his Nyoibo just goes out of the eye socket, one of the eye sockets of the mask, and over to a headless body that's waiting on a rooftop, and he just plops the head onto the new body and then walks off. So that's weird.
It's a very cool, exchange. You're just like, what the fuck's happening here?
It's very and he cool. Says, as he is now, he's going to just die. And so he looks forward to the day you abandon that kindness of yours. So he shows back up in front of the kids and thinks about what the Plague Doctor guy said to him. And he says, hey, Ryunosuke Koharu, you did well. It seems that you do have some special power. Estelle starts to look a little sad because he's not saying anything to her. And he thinks about the time that they've spent together, and he thinks about his connection to Etoile. And he just thinks to himself, we are master and disciple, nothing else. I cannot possibly have any special feelings for her. But instead, he says, there are people who have the courage to face fear and to find the ray of hope they need to defeat it. And seeing your new transformations, it's evidence that you have done that. Honestly, I underestimated you. I thought that you were weak, but you've gotten stronger. Thinks to himself, this isn't special. This is just, a master praising a disciple that has exceeded expectations. This doesn't have to do with how I personally feel. These words have no feelings behind them. But while he's saying it all, he's flashing back to all the time that they've spent together, training together, him watching over her while she was alone, thinking about her mother. And when he finishes it, he's, staring at her with his same emotionless dead eyes. But he's just thinking to himself, there are no feelings behind what I'm saying at all. Clearly in denial over it. So it's a cool kind of sequence. The relationship between them is pretty basic, but this moment is done really well, I think.
Yeah, the execution's really well done, and I'm fine with the narrative they're trying to push here, that side-haired, two-color, two-faced man, whatever we're calling him, that he has this dilemma being placed upon him that it's like, okay, this guy's trying to tell him, being like, you care too much. That's why you have this weakness. If you truly were the best, you wouldn't care. And that's what he's trying to convince himself. He's like, I don't care. This is just natural, and basically trying to suppress those emotions. It really kind of is the bubbling starting point for what I think would be a really interesting arc that I don't imagine we're going to have the time to fully explore. But I do like this being the start of it, how he transitioned from Estelle's arc into this guy's arc, kind of in a natural way.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Following up on that, immediately after, he says that they've got to, help out the islanders who have been affected by the Kurori, restore them to their full strength. And Ryunosuke is like, So do we have to kiss everyone on the island? He's like, what the fuck are you talking
What the
about?
hell? What happened to you out there, my boy?
What have you guys been doing? And we don't even see what they actually do because there's just a bit of narration that says reinforcements arrived and we helped make something and gave the finished product to the islanders and they were able to regain their strength. What did you make? It's curry. All right.
We made special curry that fixed everything.
Yeah. Okay.
This is the Addicted to Curry sequel that nobody realized was in the making.
Oh God, yeah. Jesus Christ. It's been forever since I thought of that series.
I'm glad to bring you back to it for only a hot moment in time.
It's been like 8 years or something since we read that. Jeez.
Yeah, that was a real early one.
So, he says while they're eating curry together, we're going to be very busy with the Oban festival coming up.
Okay. I love it that like, so within the past couple weeks we've had like a character nearly like sucked of all of her nutrients so that she would just be like a dehydrated mummy and collapse to the ground, and then this wild fight against a monster of mouths, and then this chapter even includes like a guy having his head cut off and the dismembered head connecting itself to a second body so it could taunt the guy, and then we end the chapter with being like, oh, but the school festival's coming up, and all the characters are like, like, it's a very weird like, am I meant to actually care about the Oban festival? Unless he, like, next chapter he's like, oh, that's when the hand monsters come out to punch the earth and we have to stop them or something like that.
So we're up to chapter 17 of Last Saiyuki. Haven't gotten any word yet that the series has been canceled, so it seems like it's going to last a little bit longer because usually around chapter 18 is when we get word of that. Mm-hmm. Like by this point, we would have probably heard that chapter 18 was going to be the last chapter, for example. So I don't know if we're going to get like just a handful more or what. I'm just making a note of it because it's unusual that it seems like we're going to have 18 chapters and the 18th is not going to be the last one. Unless just like for whatever reason that hasn't broken yet. So
we shall see. There's, I guess, more time for us to find out about that, but I guess we, at the very least, will get more Last Saiyuki for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's talk about We Never Learn, Nick.
Okay, I have to emotionally prepare myself for this.
All right. Question 117. The Clockwork Fireflies yearn for the snow flurries of a pizza bet, part 4. So last chapter, Ogata was very low on herself. Had separated herself from the group entirely, and there was some sexy shenanigans inside of a nurse's room. But all that's aside now because Yuiga shows up with a game for Ogata that he says if she wins, he'll leave her alone. But if he wins, she has to admit that she likes herself. So she's like, it looks like one of his homemade language tests. And I think part of this is just because we're in English that I guess she's supposed to be translating these from English into Japanese.
No.
Or vice versa.
That's what Iruka does. This is just a language thing. She's bad at reading, basically. She's bad at literature.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Well, I didn't know if like she was translating it that way just for the sake. I don't know. Anyway, so she looks over.
She's not translating it. It's just this text is in English so that you can understand it.
Yeah. So it's all about like a short story almost that she thinks is about herself at first, because it talks about how it's like, I hated myself, and there was this person who's always at my side, and I wanted to be like her, and she's like, oh, okay, it's about me. And then she gets to the line that says, I wanted to be like Richan. She's like, hold on a second. No, I don't know if it's about me. And it's all the stuff. It's like, my dream was to, work with the stars, and I didn't have the talent to give up. And she realizes at that point that this is Fumino's story. And we get a flashback to when the two of them were back with Kirisu and be basically given like, hey, you suck at this. Stop trying. Go back to the career path what like you're actually good at. And the first shot you see is of Fumino being like, yes. and it's so devastating because her eyes are just so dead as she's reluctantly accepting the fact that her dream is dead at this moment, and she's just gonna go have to go back to going into literature and everything like that. But then immediately it's countered by Ogata being like, "That's stupid. I'm gonna make my own choices. I don't have a picometer of use for your opinions."
You don't give 1 millimeter of a fuck.
And we see from Fumino's perspective how she's like, that was Rizu Ogata, the science genius. We were assigned to a tutor, and my father would have loved her because she was just she was just a math genius. He would have loved to have a daughter like her. But I've been rejected by my father and my teacher, and my dream is absolutely crushed at this point, and I'm so jealous of her, and I hated myself for it. And she's walking home as fireflies are starting to kind of like light up the sky, and she's like, Ogata's like, "So are you going to change your path?" And she's like, "Oh, well, she did kind of say that I'm really bad for it." And she's like, "But isn't the point of studying to learn what you want to learn? What does talent or someone else's approval have to do with it? I could not care less about other people's opinions about our aptitude and potential." And Fumino has these, this starry-eyed look as she's enamored with how impressive Ogata is at this point. And she's like, "I didn't know, we didn't know anything about each other at that point. It was just this one little moment and comment. I bet you don't even remember, but you were the only person in the whole world who didn't deny my dream. And you were the one to help me understand that it was okay to try. And I'm sure that you have no idea how dazzling you were to me. So even if you don't like yourself, I will always love you, Richan."
Oh, look, Chris. Fumino's in love with Ogata. I guess that means that they're lesbians. Like that she's in love with her.
We're going to find out in a little bit how wrong you are, but
maybe I should bet a pizza on this or something. Maybe
I
should read way too much into this.
You might as well, Nick, to try to make up for the bad pizza bet you made earlier in life, and this one to counteract it. You bet on the Jets to win the Super Bowl. You're like, well, I better bet on the Patriots just to be safe. So she's like, it was Yuega's idea for me to write about you and how I feel. And like, we both felt the same way about each other this whole time. It makes me happy, but I'm still afraid that everyone else will see the ugly things around me. And Yuega immediately says, "We'll never judge you. It's up to you how you want to feel about yourself. And I don't know what ugly things you're talking about, but you can always tell us how you feel. And if I did see something, I didn't like, we'd talk about it and we would address it together." And she, Gata's like, "Oh, what if I don't get better?" And she's like, "We'll keep working on it and we'll learn from it. What else is there?" And he like pats her on the head. And she's like, "Let's get back to work. It's Christmas time," and shit like that. And then fucking everyone shows up. All the other girls show up, including Sekijo.
Well, Kirisu's not there. She's the one character who's absent during this, basically.
Yeah, sorry. All the classmate students, I should say. So they all are like, "Hey, let's have a big Christmas party and let's do something like that." So Yuega's like, "Oh, hey, do we have something that would take about like 30 minutes that we could just do together?" So shockers, they begin playing one of Ogata's board games that her grandmother made. Specifically the one that she made that Ogata kept trying to play with her grandmother at the end. And it's got all these weird rules on it, like, player 2 and player 3 have to hold hands until the next turn. So it's her and Yuega, and she's like, "Oh, I'm happy. This is really fun. This is great. And it's my first time playing with so many friends." And there's all these other things like, say something nice about this player, express your gratitude towards this player, all these wacky games. And she realized, like, Iruka comes in and is just like, "This game really involves everyone. It's really, really fun." And Yuega's like, "Yeah, the person who made it must have wanted you to play with a lot of friends, Ogata." And that's when Ogata realizes everything.
I can't do with this.
She realizes what the whole thing was in the beginning. So we get a flashback to a very young Ogata being like, "Hey, why don't we go play with the abacus when we get home, Grandma?" And Ogata's grandma is just like, "Oh, geez, what am I going to do with you? Why don't you play games with kids your own age sometime?" And the guy's like, "But I just want to play with you, Gran." And Ogata's grandmother sees a bunch of kids playing a board game or being really excited about playing a board game. So she thinks about it and she goes home and she designs a board game specifically to be played with other people. But she's coughing a lot as this happens because she knows the end is coming. So a scene happens where Ogata's like, ooh, let's play a game with me. She's like, no, you've got a ways to go before you beat your old grand. And we see the scene from the other side now, literally just the other side. So it's Ogata being like, are you tired of me, grand? And grand says, I am. And you could see just devastating pain in her face as she says it. And we realize grand lied because she wanted Ogata to play this kind of game with all of her friends.
And her ghost is watching her, Chris.
And her ghost is watching from the corner, and she's got some peanuts, and it's a very good time.
I was emotionally devastated reading this chapter, Chris. Oh, man, this got me so bad. Like, it's not fair. Like... Because, like, it's not just this moment. Like, if this moment had come out of nowhere, then it would be, oh, that's really bad. But, like, the first, half or first third or so of this chapter with, like, the connection between Ogata and Fumino, and then Fumino shows up looking all sad and wanting her friend to feel happier and better about herself, that, like, primes you for it. It softens you up. Like, the first layer of defense goes down, and then before you can recover and get your heart hardened against all of the softness of the world, dead grandma who wanted Ogata to have friends shows up.
And she wanted her to have friends because she knew she was about to die.
It's so... Oh, and it's like such a happy sad too, because it all works out okay, but it's heart-wrenching.
I've talked about before that, like, I have trouble watching movies without crying nowadays. Not like sobbing in theaters, but like I get like the single soldier tear,
right?
Because I'm very, very brave and very, very strong. And I got one of those reading this chapter as you got to this point, because it's hard.
I got so misty-eyed. Like, I was misty-eyed at the beginning, and then by the end, I was like, oh.
So then, everybody's really excited. Ruka's like, don't study anymore by yourself. Okay, we missed you. And she's like, okay, I won't. Sorry to worry you. And Fumino walks up. It's like, so do you still dislike yourself? And, there's a whole flashback of the whole point of that essay thing was, or the story was to be like, if you win the game, then, whatever. But if you don't, then I win, if you like yourself. So we'll work out together, how long it takes. And Ogata says, no, once again, I really am bad at games. And then we get...
Oh, and she got 100 on the test that Yuiga made for her, Chris. She got better. She's found her dream.
And then we get the only part of this chapter that I really don't like, where we end it with Fumino being like, so you like yourself then? And Ogata is staring off to Yuiga, and she's like, I think it's more like love. And this is a lesson to everybody out there. It's very important for you to take this from somebody with massive self-esteem and depression issues. It's important for you to love yourself, and that love should not be dependent on another person in a relationship. So I'm very happy that Ogata has cared about herself. I do not enjoy, though, that the end implication is that she likes herself vicariously through a shared interest of loving Yuiga in return.
I hope that the intent of this is more that because she's not blinded by self-hate, she's able to better deal with the emotions that she couldn't understand at the start of this saga. When we saw that she was jealous of Fumino and she didn't understand why.
I don't think it's not like an attack on the series or anything like that. I don't even necessarily think that was the intended goal of that moment. But I feel like when you take this scene out of context and I think about how another series would do this scene, it would 100% earnestly mean it in that application of like, oh, well, I love me because protagonist loves me. And that's not a healthy way to view yourself.
No.
So I don't like it from this execution right there. I think the chapter by and large is very good. I just wanted to note that that last panel there is a good message to people that your own self-worth should come from yourself, not through somebody else's relationship with you or infatuation with you or anything of that regard.
That said, you should also, strive to form relationships, both romantic and and platonic, with people who make you feel good about yourself, as opposed to people who make you feel bad about yourself. So.
Yeah, Nick, you stupid cocksucker.
Yeah, you asshole. Fuck you.
No,
anyway,
it's a very good chapter. It's extremely well done. It's moments like this that make me go back in time, and I'm like, no, I was right. We never learned is better than Nisekoi.
I think that we've reached the point with the number of really good stories that We Never Learn has told that we could say, like, yeah, it is a good series. It's a very good series. It's just that every time that we seem to bring that up, it seems to go like, and now it's time for an animal to randomly steal all the panties off the girls' asses.
It's like they go horse riding, and all the horses keep biting off their shirts. Somebody like, I don't even think that's kind of sexual. It seems weird.
It only bites off their bras, though. So then whenever they ride, now their boobies are bouncing around. And also the track pants, the weird, like, horse riding pants, it goes up their asses.
Yeah, well, I mean, that would happen no matter what. Look, that could be a story about, like, Sekijo's deep-seated sexuality issues or something like that. It would still be riding up her ass, and you'd still. It's
just like her going to see a therapist or something about the issues that she has, and like, I just don't understand. Like, is this how friends feel, or is there something more? And she'll be like lying comfortably on her back on the couch, and somehow there will be a shot of her pants getting drawn into her butt. Right?
We'll see a shot from the perspective of like crevice in the couch. Just so we know, like, oh, okay, her clothes are being.
It's very important.
She could be wearing like the thickest denim jeans in the universe, and somehow they'll still be going up her ass. It's just how it works. No, good chapter.
All right, let's move on to Dr. Stone.
Time to get stoned.
Z equals 111 Science Wars, featuring a fucking badass 2-page color spread.
I'm not gonna lie, this may be one of the coolest 2-page color spreads in any series I've ever seen.
As soon as this thing becomes available as a poster, I'm getting it. Seriously, this is amazing.
It is supremely cool.
All right. It's time for the harem selection thing. And in the shot we see, prior to the 2-page spread, we see Amaryllis, Kohaku, and Ginro in disguise, all lining up for that. And meanwhile, Senku is preparing a science earring, which is the key to this mission's success. Some other women get picked from the village first, and we see tall beard guy holding a woman up in a way that doesn't really make sense, honestly.
No, he like grabs her by the belt with just his middle finger, and I assume she's like writhing backwards in pain because her belt is made of adamantium and refuses to give to her body. So, yeah, so it's just pulling her spine upwards and tearing her back in half.
I will also say, before we get too deep into this, there's a lot of like skeeviness in this chapter. Because Dr. Stone in general, Boichi's like weird perverted artwork has kind of been muted for the most part. It's more effective than it could be. Like if this chapter had happened in Eden Zero, we would just be like, oh, come the fuck on. Like,
it'd be another, it would be another chapter Eden Zero, basically.
But because this is not something that regularly happens in Dr. Stone, at least, it has the intended effect of, wow, these guys are gross. So
it also, and maybe this is just from, you know, a bad take perspective of somebody who really doesn't have a stake in this fight, but I do at least enjoy that a lot of it is broken up by like really funny scenes of like the artwork in particular. So at least like when you have that moment, it's, you know, I don't know, maybe it's just balanced out by it's like using the art in different other ways to at least portray like a feeling of like humor or something like that as well.
It's not trudging through an entire chapter of ugliness, basically.
Yeah.
So, the girl that he's picked up has just gotten married, and her husband has been beaten and cast to the side. And he's like, "No, we've just gotten married," and he tries to get up and confront them, but Amaryllis puts a hand on his shoulder and is like, "Hey, just endure it for now. Listen, we've all, lost people from this. I've endured having my friends turned to stone for 5 years, and it's all led to this. We're going to get into this harem and save everyone." And he looks back at her and is like, "What can a timid girl like you do?" And I guess that all of the guys who are there for the harem selection don't notice this conversation going on, as immediately they come up to her and she's like, "I'm Amaryllis and I get nervous around big, strong men." And she's making herself all blushy and teary-eyed. And immediately Beard Guy's like, "Yeah, you're selected. Get in this harem." And there's this one woman who shows up and she's like, "My homie passed away last year, but this flower's still got a lot of love to give." And her kids are like, "Mom, no."
Stop it, Mom.
And the guy just like ignores her completely. He's just like already in the background walking away.
He's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna save myself the time for this."
So Kahaku's like, "Oh crap, I'm next." So he remembers the advice that Gen gave her. Like, okay, look, there's no way you're going to be able to imitate Amaryllis's cutesy bashful act. That's beyond you. Instead, just try acting, excitable and hyperactive. So I'm not sure how to describe exactly what Kohaku does, but she doesn't do it well. I'll just say that much. She's so awkward that her own face appears on her thumb when she makes the thumbs up. That's about all you need to know. And the guy is kind of befuddled by this, and you see like the scale on his head going back and forth. He's like, "I don't know about this." And we find out later his standards are very low, so she did a really bad job, basically. Yeah. Eventually, he decides she's easy on the eyes, and he appreciates a woman with curves, and he starts to reach out towards her breasts. And Kohaku reacts the way that Kohaku does, by reaching up towards his hand and starting to break it. It's like kind of immediately, I'm gonna just rip this arm out of its socket. But one of the guards who has accompanied him puts a axe club thing. I guess that's the easiest way to describe it, is like the kind of staff clubs that M'Baku used in Black Panther.
Yeah.
Anyway. And he separates the two of them. So their leader is like, what the hell are you doing? He's like, "I think I saw a bee." "Oh, okay. Anyway, she's going in the harem." Guard guy says, "Hey, you're really strong, aren't you?" And Kaku doesn't say anything. So he says, "I like your type. I don't know what it is what you're after, but if your plan involves messing with the harem that I love so much, I'll stop you dead in your tracks. I'll sneak over and find you in the harem sometime. Looking forward to our encounter, if you know what I mean." And Kohaku says, "If you mean Mortal Kombat, I'm ready for you whenever." He does not mean Mortal Kombat, Kohaku. It's sweet that you think that, though. Break his arm too, please.
I thought he did. I thought he was like, there was him being like, "I'm coming over to kill you at some point," basically. And I was like, "Oh, that was pretty cool."
No, he's being skeevy.
Oh.
It's cute that you think that too, though, Chris.
Very innocent. I'm a sweet.
Or maybe I just like this chapter put me in a dark place, and I'm like, all these people are assholes. One of us is wrong, clearly.
It's always me. It's fine.
Yeah, pizza bet. So anyway, Seiko is working on the science earring, as everyone describes it, and he basically has made like a listening device. It's not a transceiver, it's a receiver, and all it involves is like there's a little bit of copper wire, some salt, and a little stone to vibrate, and you can use it to receive orders during secret missions. And Gen's like, "There's no machinery in here. How does it receive radio waves exactly?" And Seiko's like, "Oh, it'll work. It'll receive radio waves."
It just does. Shut up.
It's so small, though. Is there a circuit chip in it? No, it's just a rock. Yeah.
That's just how science be.
Yeah. And he's like, "Is this a battery? No, no, no. It'll work forever without one."
I do love how he's just doing that, like, while, like, cleaning out his ear. It's just like, wait, so this thing's basically like a radio thing that doesn't need any circuitry and needs no battery power. It'll just function forever the way it is. And he's like, yeah, of course.
It's just a receiver, so it'll vibrate when something of the right frequency hits it. So now I don't know too much about this, but when this was brought up, I was like, oh yeah, I think I've heard of that. So anyway, Kohaku and Amaryllis have both been selected, which just leaves Ginro. So Ginro introduces himself. He's like, I'm Ginrolina, and I'm not cute at all. Just like spreading his legs out, slapping him, so, trying his hardest not to get chosen. And the guy's just like, oh, look at you pint-sized tomboy. You're so cute. Selected.
I do love that he's just like, oh, look at you. You're just a tiny little tomboy. Come on into the harem.
It's no standards whatsoever. So the girls get dragged off, or escorted off, I should say. The mother from before was like, I nearly won them over. And they're like, Mom,
go home.
It. We want you to stay here and feed us. What a weird character. So Soyuz throws the earpiece out towards them. Kaku, with her supervision, of course, spots it, grabs it, and puts it in her ear. And Gen's like, all right, time to test this. Can you hear me, Kohaku? If you can, strike a cute pose. And Kohaku hears this, and she's like, And she thinks of Suika, which I totally understand that. So she strikes a Suika pose with herself like on one foot with her arms spread out. Looks very strange when someone actually has limbs that they need to pose. The guards are like, what the fuck is she doing? And everyone's like, yay, the earpiece really works. And Senka's like, I mean, I don't know if that's a cute pose.
I like how Sika's worried because she's like, that means she didn't get our message. It didn't work. She's like, no, it worked. I don't think she knows what cute is.
And Kohaku looks up at the cliff face and she's like, I will have my revenge 10 times over for this. And apparently Gen hears her. So, but anyway, now they can give instructions to Kohaku, so that's good. But they say that there's a problem, if the woman who has the petrification device, Kirisame, she's quite a ferocious fighter. And if she were to just try and take it from her, that's asking for trouble. Although I do like that they're like, oh yeah, Kohaku will get her ass kicked. It's like, well, no, but it will still cause trouble, so it won't be easy. But Senku says, like, yeah, Kirisame will protect the petrification beam. So the only time she's not going to be just holding on to it on her person is in that one moment when she throws it to activate it. That's when we strike. And Senku says, this was a battle that was always going to be fought in midair. Here on this primitive island, we're gonna make a drone!
These are my favorite chapters of this series when it ends in a way where you're just like, fucking what, my dude? Excuse me? When he's like, we're gonna make a fucking mobile cell phone, or it's like, we're gonna invent self-driving cars.
What? It's what we need in this situation.
Yeah. We're gonna invent a mobile hero collector video game app based off of the Digimon IP. And you're like, this is very specific. What are we going to do?
We're going to make a nanite.
Yeah, we're gonna make a nanobot machine, like the one in Big Hero 6, everyone's favorite Pixar Disney movie or Disney movie.
A Pixar movie, but yeah. Yeah, everyone's favorite mediocre Disney movie.
I'm like, they keep putting it in things, like they put it in Kingdom Hearts, and you're just like, I guess somebody enjoys this.
It's a merch machine, I think, is all that it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, fun chapter. Nice, lots of nice little jokes in it. The villains that I'm supposed to hate, I hate them now. So congratulations on that. And yeah, I am looking forward to them just making a freaking drone, because why not? All right. What's next here?
Let's talk about 7 Deadly Sins, Nicholas.
Let's do that.
7 Deadly Sins, Chapter 317, Proud Determination. So, Nick, Escanor has arrived on the scene where the spawn of Endula is killing trying to kill a bunch of the Holy Knights. He intervenes and says, "Hey, I'm going to fight this for you. I'm the demon sin of pride. Or deadly sin of pride. I'm not going to just let this happen." So he's trying to hold his ground, but the spore is just killing it. It's basically just like a pod with a mouth and a tongue that just cuts things. So, Gil Thunder we see try to do something to fight back. Doesn't, have any effect on the creature. And then, Escanor jumps in the way from what would presumably have been a lethal blow against Gil Thunder, but it's still pretty bad blow on Escanor. It really, punctures his shield. It pierces his chest a little bit and ripping him apart. And, the Holy Knight's just like, I don't get it. How is he able to do this? He's even injured worse than us, and he's still standing. And Escanor explains, he's like, well, you guys, you've never been on the receiving end of the captain's full blows. And I have, and it hurt so bad I thought I'd die. So, it was at broad daylight at that point. I was in my pride form. And even then I was feeling that. So compared to that pain, this is nothing. This is like an insect bite. So I'm going to be your shield. Get away, no matter how you have to. Even if you have to crawl away, get away. And he keeps trying to defend himself. The spore does a whole bunch of flurry of attacks. It cuts off his hand at one point, and he's just being absolutely assaulted by this thing. And he's thinking, this is embarrassing. If the others saw me being so pathetic like this, I'm sure they'd laugh. And then he thinks of all of their faces, and he's like, wait, no, nobody would laugh at me. Those guys are so amazing and count me as one of their own, even though I have no merits and I'm so powerless. I'm the same whether in daylight or my default at night. Everyone's really so strong and kind, and I've stood side by side with them and fought, and I'm proud of that. The proof of all the battles I've fought with them lives on in my heart. So even if only in spirit, I want to be with everyone to the very end. And we see that his arms have been cut off. He's basically just a bloody torso and head at this point. He can't even open his right eye. And he stands against the last attack of the Endula, which is basically just opened up its mouth to devour him whole. And he says, I'm the 7 deadly sins, lion's sin of pride, Escanor.
At this point, I was actually thinking, like, is it actually going to eat him?
I was like, oh, shit. I kind of thought that, too. But before it can chomp down, it is evaporated, just completely eviscerated. And then we see that Male has showed up and answered his prayer. And he destroyed the creature. And he's like, I heard your prayer. And I will gladly expend every effort I can if it means saving the people from the dangers that approach this land. But I cannot fight the Demon Lord. It's simply, I won't. It just won't work out. And Escanor's like, oh, no, you got it all wrong. I didn't call you down to fight somebody. I wanted to ask if I could have the power of sunshine back. And he's like, well, I mean, sure, even if you get the power back, you wouldn't be able to just fight the Demon Lord. But it's that your body, Escanor, at this point, is at its limit. You wouldn't be able to, carry the weight of the sunshine grace again. If you did it would only be once, and then you would die. And, it's kind of this dramatic moment. And he's like, you'll only be throwing your life away. And Escanor smiles and says, I don't mind that. And everyone's like, what the fuck? He's like, well, I won't be throwing my life away. I'll be risking it for the sake of everybody else. And they're risking their lives too. So I want to be with them, risking my life to fight for them. And this is an extremely cool visual. As we see a full page spread of Male kind of holding his hand in front of this, this very scrawny, almost malnourished Escanor. And they shake hands, and we see Male say, there's still time before noon. And Escanor smiles and says, you're right. And then the final page is, a full page spread of the handshake from the other angle, as we see Escanor's hand has gotten huge and is crunching it. So we see that, the transfer of power has happened, and Escanor is going to have one last run in his full high noon sunshine form.
Mm-hmm.
It is an extremely cool visual transition going from the handshake from the one perspective to the other after the exchange. And it's cool in the way that only works in these sorts of series where Mail says, "There's still time before noon." It's like, fuck, that's a cool line for this moment.
So yeah, this was a pretty gruesome chapter. I was really unsettled by just how fucked up Escanor was getting with his that's just the moment where his hand pops off and he's like, "Oh my," and then it gets worse from there. Ugh. But it's really cool to see the just not lack of caring from him. Just having absolutely no hesitation whatsoever. Is like, oh, I'll gladly kill myself if it means that I can help my friend save the world. So.
I like the way it's phrased too, where he's like, "Oh, I don't care because they're all risking their lives to save each other anyway, so I'm going to do the same. So even if this is the one last shot I'm going to have at this and I'm probably going to die anyway, that's fine because everyone else is also risking their lives to do this as well." It's a very noble sentiment.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to the Promised Neverland, chapter 140. I'm here. So
I wish Emma said that with that kind of enthusiasm when she gets there. She's like, "What's up? I'm here."
How you doing? We see a little bit of the gathering of demons for the summit at the Imperial capital. It's weird because we see into the different demon territories as people are starting to make their pilgrimages. And so, most of it just like, all right, let's set off. Some of them are, walking down a hall. Some of them are getting into a wagon. But then we just see that there is this like hover train with like wings on it. Demon train. It's 3 days until the Tefari at this point. So everyone is getting set to move out. And there's also, they also have a meal for Goro being planned that should arrive soon. We also see some people approaching Lord Daza. Okay. And there's just a lot of conversation going on. There's an interesting bit because we see some of the lords talking amongst each other, and they talk about how much they hate Daza and how he's oppressive and vulgar and sickening and stuff. And I think it's not. God, I forget what this guy's name is. I think it's the current Lord Bayon. Anyway.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. He says, like, you must only endure him during the Tefari. Once we return to our territories, we can say goodbye. But if I could be honest for a second, I preferred Gillen. Yeah, it is Bayon, yeah. And one of the others is like, Lord Bayon, you shouldn't say those things. And Bayon says, even my young heart remembers how that one was beautiful and just. They truly thought about what was best for the citizens. To have that much intelligence fall into a wildling. I don't understand. How did that happen? And we see a behind shot of this Gillen. And is she supposed to be Mujika?
Which one?
The blonde woman that is petting young Bayon's head.
Maybe it's Mujika's mother.
There might be a connection there.
It's a very young. Mujika seems very small and young. So, but when she called like a royal bloodline or special bloodline, so maybe
she's super special. So,
yeah.
But yeah, apparently, as far as they know, this Gillen that everyone thought so highly of somehow reverted into a wild creature, and we see a shot of this like swollen monster thing that's chained up in like a dungeon somewhere. So anyway, people gathering for the Tefari. That's what's going on. We cut over to Emma and Ray, who are in the weird empty room with the black hole and a cube thing. And Ray's trying to figure out what the hell it is as he stares at it. He's like, what the hell is it? I mean, if it's a black hole being near, he's like mumbling to himself the same as he did in the last chapter we saw them in. And it was just like, Ray, shut up. It's fine. It's fine. It's like, no, I'm going to find out what it is. I know what it is. I'm just, shut up. So Ray tries to, say to himself, like, all right, I've just got to, stop thinking so much. And I've got to stop suspecting or fearing it. Just move forward and believe. And they reach out together while holding hands. And Emma thinks to herself, hold on, Norman, everyone. And then Ray is on the ground back at Norman's base. And he's like, what the fuck? What happened? When is it? What's the day? Am I back here? What's happening? Where's Emma?
What? I was special! I was supposed to be special!
No!
Is this what all the happy baby memories gives you in the end?
So Emma shows up in this wide open space with the reflective pool that she first saw in before. And she realizes that she has arrived. The dragon thing that she saw before shows up. And it lowers itself down. And it transforms into a large humanoid demon. And then an adult-looking demon. And then a child-looking demon. And then the childlike demon that she saw when it first introduced itself to her. And Aurora says, we finally meet. And it says, like, yeah, here there is nothing, but you can find anything. I knew you had the ability to come here. Emma asks about Ray, and he says, don't worry, he returned to your family. He couldn't come here, although he came close. He was still stuck within his own walls. He understood it with his head, but he couldn't go beyond it yet. Although he's the world and the world is him, even though the truth is that this world has no walls, it's actually more difficult than you think to release yourself and the world. I can do it if I wanted to.
Yeah, don't you tell me what I can and can't do.
I don't need your approval. It's not like I wanted to go to your dumb place beyond or whatever.
I don't want to be there. It sounds stupid and has like water space seas. That's dumb. I could be over here with Anna. She's super fun and interesting. Isn't that right? Isn't that right, Anna?
That's not my name.
Shut up, Anna!
Your name is Anna now.
And where's Craig? You mean Chris? No, I mean Craig. I'm not fucking wrong. I'm special.
I'm Ray. Anyway, Aurora asks why Emma has come, and she thinks over all they've been through together, having to leave Phil and the others behind, being wished luck by Dawn and Gilda, getting the reassurance from Ray, Norman being an evil douchebag, and she thinks to herself, the future I want to free the children of the farms. I don't want to kill the demons. I won't let Norman go alone. And she says, I came to make a new promise. And that is the end of the chapter. It's very much just like, building up to something, it feels like, more than it just being a good chapter in its own right. It's not a bad chapter, but it's much more setting the stage for the thing we've been waiting to happen. So,
I mean, I do like thinking about the perspective of like, oh, well, Ray's stuck within his own walls, and that's why he can't be here. Versus how Emma's got like less hanging her up, so that's why she's here. Like, I do think there's some interesting character stuff to pull out of here. I think the art's really well done, especially in like that full page of watching, a special demon go from being like the big tall that's slowly like shrinking until it's like a kid boo kind of size and everything like that. Visually, some really cool stuff. I think my big thing is that like all the actual demon stuff, the only thing I really pulled away from it is like, oh, the Tafari's 3 days away, and that's when Norman's gonna enact his whole like super murder coup. So it's like a time span to be like, oh, we have 3 days for that. But there's like this inner politics stuff, which is interesting because it does show you the demons have like layers to them, that there's this whole inner politics in there. And it's just not particularly like something I feel like getting invested in at this point. So
I get that.
I like the chapter by and large. It's just the end, I think, is significantly more interesting than the latter than the end. Or sorry, the end is more interesting than the beginning, rather.
I got you. All right.
All right, let's
Take
move
us through Black
on.
Clover.
Black Clover, page 210, on the brink. So the devil has a bunch of mouths, and they're all insulting everybody, talking about how they're all
Fuck you,
going to
fuck you, fuck you,
die,
fuck
and
you,
they
fuck you,
suck.
fuck
Yep.
you.
He's got 1,000 comments, and all of them, he couldn't kiss his mother with any of those mouths. They're very rude. And everyone, Asta and Yuno are trying to fight back, but it's not going particularly well. They think, though, if they could just score a single hit with his heart, with Asta's sword to his heart, they'd win. It's very, very difficult. And Asta's like, I'm even getting to my limit. So we see like a montage of other characters inside the Sephiroth, with Jack the Ripper and Mero de Leona and Fuego Leon. And his comments about how things are getting pretty tough for them because all the leeches are now starting to pour into the areas they were in. But we see that Leashed and Lumiere are basically combining their magic, because that's part of what Leash Sword does. It stores up energy and it connects those to have ties with the blade. So it's, a blade that connects people. And they're going to use their magic to protect everybody. So we see that magic kind of sprayed throughout, basically protecting people from these waves of leeches and monsters that are trying to attack them. And we see a brief shot of Rhea talking about how it must be very nice because he get, Leashed and, the prince, they get to meet again. And he knows this because he can see via his connection with Leashed. It's sort of nebulous, but I guess it works. Then there's a moment where Patrick's like, all right, well, I'll defend you guys so that you guys can keep doing what you want. I'm not going to doubt your bond anymore. A lot of trust in each other. It's the big thing of all this. And, I mean, honest, that's kind of the whole chapter. We basically get to the end where, Elf, Charlotte, and Yami are riding on a rock through a wave of leeches, and he's like, I just got to get ready because I'm about to make my big swing, and she's going to help him with it. And she's like, well, just don't make your swing miss. So we get the idea that Yami's going to make his big swing that he commented earlier would be pretty significant. And then the other two characters will talk about how they both want to be the Wizard King and they'll help kill this guy, I think.
I think we've reached the point now where it's like, if you're just not into this, then this chapter's doesn't mean much to you because it's the big climactic final clash thing. It's like, all right, fine, if you are into it, I'm sure that you're, waiting with bated breath for the next chapter, but this isn't the thing that's going to get you, that's going to change your mind. Mm-hmm. I do like the shot of Asta and Yuno going with their swords towards the devil with all of the weird monstrous mouths in between them while all of them chant "It's over." It's a cool shot, but that's about all I have to say.
Yeah, it's nothing against the chapter. It's just one of those things where if you don't have a real interest in it, it's hard to get super invested. I'm not saying it's anything bad. It's just a series that at this point, it should be fairly clear. I don't have a ton of, interest in, so I'm able to be like, that seems really interesting, but I don't really care for the characters that are directly involved in this current conflict, so.
Yes. Yeah. So move on from there to One Piece, chapter 947, Queen's Gamble. So last time, Luffy instinctively ripped off the collar that was going to blow up himself and Hyogoro, and was able to properly use haki in order to do so in that moment of danger. So Hyogoro is using this as a chance to train Luffy to do it consciously, as Big Mom bears down on them while she goes on her rage because they ate all of the Yoshiruko. And we flash back at the beginning of this chapter to when Raleigh did the same thing when saving Camille from the collar thing, just the exact same thing that Luffy did back during whatever the hell that arc was. The one where the Celestials were heavily involved.
Shabari Archipelago.
Okay.
Holy shit, I can't remember. I remember that.
So Luffy is actually experiencing this flashback, and he's like, "Oh, that's what I did. I mean, I don't know how I did it, but that's what I did, right?" But Hyogoro is certain, like, that's beyond any application of Ryuo that I can teach you. So you must be able to stop her. You must deflect that monstrously powerful fist and save both our lives. And Luffy is standing between Big Mom and Hyogoro, and all of the guards who are, too afraid to do anything to stop Big Mom are like, "How's he gonna do it? There's no way he can do it. It's impossible." And Luffy's like, "Okay, rather than just clenching up, I'll let the haki flow." And Hyogoro's like, "He can do it." Luffy's like, "Into my hands, come!" And Big Mom punches him, and they go flying into a wall. Yep. There they go.
All right.
They're just embedded in the wall now, like with their legs sticking out all cartoonish.
They're dead, and Big Mom and Kaido finish off the rest of the Straw Hats, and that's the end of One Piece, everybody. Turns out the true treasure was the death we met along the way.
One piece of disappointment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One Piece actually refers to the enormous shit that Oda just took in all of our mouths collectively.
I've been waiting 22 years, have you?
Nice.
Too bad.
It's nice to get that out of me. Stay tuned for my next series. I'm sure this one will have a satisfying ending.
Stay tuned for my next series, Viking 7.
Don't worry, it'll only run for 20 years. I'm like, I think you're already like 49, aren't you? You're already pretty old for starting another 20-year-long series.
Eiichiro Oda just lives forever, trolling people by building stuff up for 20 years and then not resolving it and just starting something else. He sells so many manga, we can't stop him. Of course they're fine. Yogoro's got a big lump on his head, but that's about it. So Luffy gets himself out and pulls Hyogoro out of the wall, and he's like, "Oh, you didn't guard with Ryuo, though. But listen, all that I can teach you with Ryuo, or what you call haki, is that which covers the outside. You can use it for defense, like invisible armor. It can be converted to offensive use to great effect. But when you go one level beyond that, the haki you wield can penetrate the enemy's interior and destroy them from the inside, making it much more powerful. Those steel collars were destroyed from the inside by your haki. You can already do it. You already know how to infuse yourself with outward haki, but you do it unconsciously." Bet. He just slumps over unconscious. Anyway, Big Mom's still upset. And he attacks them. And Hyogoro wakes up, I guess, because he's just like, "Good luck, Straw Hat!" We cut over to Udon, the prison ironworks, and people are still recovering from the transponder snails not working. And we see a figure reacting to the news. We don't see what they look like fully yet. Just like a shot of them from behind, and then when we get a close-up shot of them, their face is kind of partially covered in shadow. But his only line is, so...
He's probably going to be the fucking answer to everything.
Thank you for that shot.
Hey. Oh, man, that's
so much insight and foreshadowing going on.
That's fucking...
There's a guy, Chris. There's a guy.
That's fucking Dr. Vegapunk, isn't it? He's just sitting here in prison for some reason.
Oh, that's what he's been up to. Just like standing here this whole time. Anyway, after that very informative diversion, we cut back to where Big Mom is, doing stuff. She's smashed the gate to the ironworks, I guess. Queen gets up from having been knocked unconscious by Big Mom, and he's like, "I'm not going to let her get away with this. Listen, I have a plan. We'll only get one chance. Big Mom is like a wild boar. She's going to charge straight through Udon and make her way back around to us." And sure enough, Big Mom smashes her way through the ironworks with people getting out of the way while she's chasing after Luffy, who is running. When they get back outside, Queen is back in his Brachiosaur form, and when he sees her coming, he's perched high up on a ledge, dives down towards her, and there is another vat of Oshiruko, and she's like, "Oh, it's Oshiruko!" and opens it up, and it's empty. Fool me once, shame on you. But she looks up just in time to see Queen coming charging down through the sky at her, and he headbutts her in his full Brachiosaur form, calling it Brachio Bomber, and everyone's like, "Yeah, Queen! Yeah! Savior of Wano! Yeah!" And Big Mom's memories come back. And she's like, "What the fuck happened? Oh, right, I fell into the sea. Where is everyone? Wait a minute. I got separated from everyone. I went to some dingy little village. I remember everything now. Wait a minute, you're Queen from Kaido's crew. And Queen is like, oh no, 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 no. I love the reaction he has because it's nope, 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 nope. And she's like, everyone's like, why is she fine? What? She's completely unharmed. And then Big Mom falls over unconscious. So Queen immediately shouts at everyone to get 100% pure sea prism stone cuffs and chains, wrap them around her 100 times, give her 100 wild animal sedatives, load her onto a ship, and get her away from the prison. Put her in a double maximum security protocol. So, not taking her lightly at all.
I do like that they're like, tie her up in sea chain. Fuck it, just pump her full of everything we have. Just every animal 1,000 pounds of horse tranquilizer. Just shove it in her.
He shouts
over. Let her wake up.
He's just like, put all the prisoners in cells. Get this place in order. Just minimum number of jailers are left behind. We are escorting this dangerous fucking woman out of here and locking her up under the tightest security we can muster. Babanuki, you're in charge of Udon. And Babanuki's like, all right, but I'm worried about... Just go! Get her on the ship! Go into Ogunigashima! Get out of here! And they immediately set sail. It takes them like 2 pages to go from Big Mom is unconscious to Big Mom is in chains, tied up, loaded onto the ship, and sailing away. That is how quickly they move. The gates to the prison start to close. Otama and Momonosuke are still outside, and Otama's like, hey, Momo, the gate's closing! And then Momonosuke's like, ah, yes. It's such a shame that we agreed to wait out here. Let's go! Just they go inside. I do really like Otama after her interactions with Momonosuke. Just the pure contrast between them, with him being really timid and her just like, come on, let's go! They're like, what was his name? What was... Oh, fuck. I forget it. I forget his name, but like Gosling and her friend from Darkwing Duck, where he was just, Buster? Something like that?
Hold on. Darkwing Duck Nerdy Kid. Fuck.
Is it not coming up?
Hold on. Characters. Gosling. Was he not part of the main fucking cast? Oh yeah, click on like the full fucking... Holy shit. This is ridiculous. Honker. That's it.
Honker. Right.
This is absurd. Hold on, Nick. I have to address this. I go to the Darkwing Duck Wikipedia page. They show me the list of Darkwing Duck characters. They didn't mention Honker in the initial thing, but they did want to make sure I know who Taurus Bulba was. Fuck off! All right?
Voiced by Tim Curry.
I don't care if he was voiced by Jesus fucking Christ that could juggle dicks with his mouth. All right? I just want to know the main characters of the series, and Honker was a main character.
Not Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ who can juggle cocks
with his mouth. I don't care, man.
It's a different Jesus.
I go to a Wikipedia to be informed.
Anyway, Otama's like Gosling and Momonosuke is like Honker is my point.
You're not wrong.
Thanks for backing me up on that, Chris, but yeah, that was the point.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, Nick. When I see injustice, I have to speak out against it.
Babanuki is trying to, do a check of this horribly ruined prison. The snails are still not working. So they have no way of alerting anyone if anything else goes down. Which means that Luffy is like, oh, good, I can just fight all of you now. Because, yeah, his collar's off, and they've got no backup coming, apparently. And Babanuki's like, oh, right, he's free. And Luffy closes out the chapter by saying, I've always been free, and now this place is mine. He pops his knuckles. So things are looking up for Straw Hat Luffy now, and chaos has just unfolded. So now we know why Big Mom was where she was at that time, so that this whole thing could start to shake things up. Mm-hmm. It's a fun enough chapter. I do like the moment of reaction, just the reactions that Queen specifically has at different key moments. acting like a badass and then panicking as soon as his super killer blow does nothing to Big Mom. And then when she collapses, me being like, "We are taking her out of here. Let's go." And so, fun chapter.
Yeah, I think it's a very fun chapter. I like it. Does make sense too with all the chaos how things kind of go this way when it's like how did the Strahds get out of this without undermining like all the security and precautions and like the fact that one of the two strongest members of Kaido's crew was there to watch things over without having to make an enormous idiot. It's like, oh no, like that Big Mom subplot kind of actually did suffice into covering that while like she was just led into there and is a complete chaotic wreck. And they're like, yeah, of course, that's where we're like, gotta fucking get her out of here now. Because she's way more dangerous than anything else. So it makes sense that this is how Luffy and the crew make their escape without making anybody else look stupid in the process.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's close things out with World Trigger, chapter 181, Takuma Yuba.
World Trigger!
Takuma Yuba is young Sir Night-Eye, basically. I mean, look at him. Mm-hmm. He was adjusting the glasses. He's super serious about a bunch of stuff, but he has a weird, wacky undercurrent. Yeah. So I'm just going to think of him as Sir Night-Eye, basically. That's why he died, Chris, so he could show up in World Trigger later.
Oh, yeah, when you say it.
Yeah. It's amazing how, how Osamu's still pulling double duty now that his main series is back. He's just been tutoring these girls, but he's also fighting neighbors.
Yeah, so. He's got to do both.
Yeah. His harem is going to expand across multiple dimensions at this rate.
So wait, hold on. Just to check, are we on 180?
Is there one?
There were two chapters.
Fucker. God damn it, I haven't read that one now.
There are two chapters. All right, well, here.
Fuck!
I can very quickly kind of explain chapter 180 real quick for you.
Just make the chapters double length if you're going to do 2 in 1 month.
Well, I think it's because he missed one last month, so we wanted to put 2 out for it. Regardless, they go to meet Satomi, who is part of Kusakabe squad. I don't even know which one that is. Anyway, he's a very good gunner. It's one of the A rank gunners, and they go to him to talk about a couple things, specifically to talk about what's Yuba, and he's like, "Oh, so what is he like? Is he really good?" He's like, "Well, simply put, he's the absolute strongest one-on-one," and they're like, "Oh, that's kind of interesting." He's like, "Yeah, so here's the thing: if you go on one-on-one with him, like." He's really, really good. So like a lot of the other attackers who are known for like their one-on-one stuff, they don't do solo matches because they're high ranked and they rarely ever lose. But unlike him, Yuba earned his top rank by stacking up tens of thousands of wins against the toughest people out there. So that's kind of, he's more, I guess, hardened by battle kind of guy. And there's a whole discussion about some other little details. But basically, he's talking about why Yuba is really good. And they leave. They're like, oh, hey, we have this meeting we have to get to with Yuba, so we're going to get out of here. But Osamu stays behind to be like, so tell me more about Ninomiya, because I've heard that you're kind of like a zealot for him. And he's like, so what is Ninomiya's greatest strengths? He's like, well, he's the absolute strongest one-on-one. He's like, that's exactly what you said about Yuba. And he's like, well, the thing is, Ninomiya's really, really good. Because he has a way, basically, when he makes his Tryon cube, he can split it into 2. So he can create a bunch of really small ones and then a bunch of really big ones. So no matter what you do, if you make a big shield, he'll lure you in with small ones and then blast you with the big ones. Or he'll fire big shots and make you create a dense shield that's smaller and then hit you with a barrage of the smaller one. So, it's simply his sheer size and capability with his Tryon that makes him so hard. Uega's, or not Uega, fuck. I thought he was Uega. Osamu's just like, oh, well, should you be actually telling me this? Like his major weakness? He's like, oh no, it's open secret because you can't do anything to stop it. He's like, just knowing doesn't stop the fact that he's going to just trounce you, and honestly, if you want to beat him, just avoid him. Avoid everything you can to get into a one-on-one match with Ninomiya because that's the best way to do it. You're never going to survive. We see like flashbacks kind of showing that that's the point where like the best thing you can hope for is to take him down with you or to just accomplish your job before he kills you. Kind of like what happened with Zoe last time where he just was like launching grenades into the area before Ninomiya came up and killed him. And he's like, yeah, it's just kind of how it is. He's really, really strong. But I think your new guy, Hyusei, he might be able to put on a good match with him. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. And finally, Osamu just asked, like, oh, you said Yuba and Ninomiya are both the strongest guy out there. So which guy would win in a fight? And he's like, well, it depends. Which one has more prep time? Where are they fighting? That sort of thing. Actually, he does basically say, he's like, well, if it was normal fight, Ninomiya for sure. But if it was any sort of complicated area, I think Yuba would win. Because the big advantage just using guns is that you don't have to, like, build up your tri-cube or anything like that. You just point and fire. And the sheer speed at which Yuba could do this would probably give him an edge in that kind of area. So it basically explains that's why he is a gunner himself, is because he's like, oh, yeah, when I tried making, like, cubes, they'd go off in all wild directions anytime I panic. So I went with the gunner style because it fits better. And like they head off. He's like, oh, thanks for the time. Don't worry about it. And then Jin meets Osamu and is like, hey, cool. You're really lucky, He's like, why is that? He's like, oh, because that guy's the #1 gunner in all of Border you just talked to. He doesn't know it. He doesn't seem to have any cognitive knowledge of his own rank. But that guy's the best gunner in the entire organization. That's really it. Then we meet the guy who's Sir Night-Eye.
Then we see Takuma Yuba.
Yep.
Yuba Squad Captain, B rank number 7. So Yuma has gone to meet with him, and he introduces himself as well. And then he calls over Obishima, a younger member of his squad. And Obishima kind of hesitantly says, hello. And Yuma's like, hiya. And he was like, introduce yourself properly. And Obishima gives a more proper introduction, shouting out, I'm Obishima, an all-rounder in Yuba Squad. I admire you, Kuga, for your razor-sharp judgment, your adaptability, your creativity, your overall strength of battle. It's an absolute honor to meet you. And Yuba goes, what?
Cool. What?
Yuba kind of makes an excuse saying, this one always gets chills watching your matches, so I hope you do get along. And he was like, all right, good to meet you, man. And he was like, Kuga, how dare you? I have to whisper to him, Obi's a girl. And we cut away briefly and then come back and Yuma's on the ground, bowing and apologizing. I'm so sorry. Yuma feels such shame for misgendering. Obishima says, that's all right. People make that mistake a lot because, slender build, short hair and stuff. They kind of scold Yuma because his apology is so over the top it seems sarcastic, but Yuma is just like, no, the last time I mistook a lady for a man, I really paid for it for a long time. And we cut back to all of its to his time in the neighborhood with this girl kind of bullying him almost. Anyway, so Yuma's like, hey, well, since you're apologizing here, how about you give Obishima some training? So they have some sparring together. Obishima trying to use a sword to try and attack Yuma, who is just doing cartwheels while duck facing. He does a lot of duck facing in the early parts of this chapter to show that things aren't very serious at this point. Mm-hmm. But eventually,
he also makes it look like he's getting slapped around too.
Oh no! He's not getting, you almost got me. Whoop!
Yeah, he's not getting killed, but every time he's even in that shot, he's laying on the ground it's fuck off. Clearly, you're not.
He was just come on. I know you're stronger than that. Take this seriously. And he was like, I'll do it if you face me, Yuba. And he was like, no, you take me for an idiot who'd reveal moves to his upcoming opponent. And he was like, well, I mean, I'd be doing the same thing. Well, you still Obi Mishima show. So, the compromise they kind of come to is Yuma's like, all right, I'll show you a little bit of a new move then. And in their next spar, he basically throws this, it's like a shuriken that would be in Naruto, basically, this weird, large, 3-pronged thing. And then starts to approach Obishima, and Obishima's like, all right, here he comes. And she gets punctured from behind by the projectile that he threw, as part of it extends out through her torso and destroys her Trion system. And Yuba pretty instantly analyzes what Yuma did, realizing that he cast a scorpion through the ground, linked it up with a projectile, and this allowed him to transform it and pierce her from behind like this. And Yuma explains, yeah, it's a variation on Kageura's mantis. So Obishima is of course impressed by this, and Yuma's like, all right, come on, I showed you a new move, so we're done here, aren't we? And Yuma's like, hold on. I told you to pay up, but you overpaid, Kuga. So here's your change. A match against me.
What a fucking nerd. He looks so cool in his
is.
final chapter, but what a lame fucking... You overpaid your bill, so it's time for some change. I'm going to shoot you a lot.
He like casts his jacket back to reveal his fucking Wild West bandolier.
He's like a fucking cowboy, man.
If World Trigger's anime gets revived and we ever get to this, if there is not a Sting wasted opportunity.
They should have fought in a Wild West town. I know they wouldn't do that because they fight in realistic areas, but it should just have like a big saloon and like a fucking
All the buildings are in one alley.
Yeah.
So they start. So the fight starts. The fight ends. Yuba's basically like, draw, and shoots him full of holes immediately.
I do like it. It's super cool.
So Yuba gets really serious after, of course he does the whole, flips the guns back into his holsters while he talks and says, too bad for you, we've got this final match. He says, maintaining our top rank depends on it, and that's all you're gonna see today.
Well, all right there, Pilgrim. Looks like I put enough holes in you for one day. You know, giddy on up.
That's what happens when you misgender a lady like that. Noted social justice warrior John Wayne.
He was always known for it. Ignore the movie that he's in where he basically just...
Which one?
Where, fuck, what is it?
He plays Genghis Khan or
God
whatever.
damn it, no. Oh. Fuck, all I remember is it has the one line for him. He's like, fill your hands, you son of a bitch! And then just goes into a big shootout. Anyway, he spends the movie slapping a woman for like 90% of it. Oh, fuck, it's gonna bother me that I can't remember its name. Oh well.
Anyway.
It's like I could just go into IMDb, type John fucking Wayne Western and get a result.
Yeah, which one?
Not get 98 results.
So that's it for their practice matches. They thank each other for the opportunity.
True Grit, by the way, that was it. I found it immediately. It was the first one.
All right. Yuma promises to get revenge on Yuba, and as they walk off, Yuba says to Obishima, not a guy you want to find yourself up against for real. And Yuma says, I'm looking forward to the next match, and that's it. So it's more of what World Trigger usually does, although a little bit more hands-on than it tends to be in these kind of moments. In the case of Yuma, who got some first-hand experience with their upcoming opponents, but they are scouting, they are learning, and so we will know a little bit of what to expect when their final rank wars battle actually occurs. So,
I like Yuba. I think he's a super cool character, so I'm pretty excited for it. You know,
I also appreciate that he has despite having black hair like so many World Trigger characters do, he also has a distinct design to him.
Yeah.
He's not going to mistake him for anyone else, basically.
Yeah, the character from the last chapter, Sarutobi or whatever his name is, I'm already feeling like I'm going to mix him up with the Hughes guy within the council, because they have a very similar kind of aesthetic to them. So, God forbid either character's in street clothes. I'm going to be like, oh God, which one is it?
All right. That's it. That's it for Weekly Manga Recap. So we are going to close things up by naming our favorites. Favorite series and MVP.
Yes. So my favorite chapter this week, I feel like there can't even honestly be, like an answer to it. It's gonna be We Never Learned. If a chapter makes me tear up like that, gets that much of an emotional response, it's gonna be the chapter of the week.
I agree for exactly the same reason.
My MVP though, I'm debating. It's either Escanor right now, but honestly, I'm probably gonna go with Yuba just because I ended up really liking him by the end of that chapter, and I don't know, like the Wild West gunman aesthetic, such a cool one for the series that I do dig it.
I am going to go with Escanor. That was the other series that I read this time that got the biggest reaction out of me. In this case of just shock and horror. And it was all about him. So I'm going to do that.
And the audience loved We Never Learn. It won Chapter of the Week, and then Ogata got Character of the Week as well. So
totally understandable.
A lot of love for that chapter.
Chapter was all about her. So, All right. That's going to do it, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Weekly Manga Recap. We tend to record the show here on twitch.tv/RoloT and smashcast.tv/RoloT sometime between 7:30 and 8 Eastern on Wednesday nights. That is when we do the show.
Yes.
That is the thing.
So I've heard.
Yes. Rumor has it. If you want to listen to our past episodes, you can check us out in many different places. weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, on iTunes and on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate, comment, all that good stuff. Help us out in the algorithm. Beat the woodworkers, assuming we're still in the hobby section. I don't know if we're still in the hobby section. Are we still in the hobby section, Chris?
Yeah, that's probably going to happen for a long time until someone while I'm at the computer is like, you should change that right now. And I'm like, I should.
All right.
Because otherwise it's like, I'll change that tomorrow and I'm definitely going to remember.
Follow us on Twitter at WMR Podcast, at RoloT, at Nick F. Time, and send us feedback, ask us questions for our Q&A episodes via email, weeklymangarecap@yahoo.com, and on our Discord server. If you go on the Discord server, you can also check out the many different ways to send us freaking suggestions for manga for us to read. Check out the spreadsheet that Ninja X3i has created. There are also votes that you can do to decide the year-end awards that Ninja X3i puts up in the chats and stuff. Special thanks to everyone who gives us all the support that helps us to create the show what it is, whether you're a Patreon supporter or you are an artist or an animator, all the people who help us out. Steve Mann, Infamous Planet, Winsleydale Cheddar, Milo Stillitz. The last two made the opening sequence for us. You can check them out on soundcloud.com/Milo-Jack-Stillitz and on youtube.com/Winsleydale Cheddar.
Nick, you want to see some goofs from True Grit? Goofs?
No.
All right. So when Maddie is emerging from her sleeping area where they're close to Nucky Ted Pepper's head out, it's evident she's wearing some form of black nylon tights. Not something you would see in the 1870s. Movie goof. You know, someone should get a bell and ring it and then count these and then make an entire video series on YouTube that degenerates the entire genre of movie criticism.
We need to make the criticism as long as possible. Not because there is a lot to talk about, but because that means that we get more ad revenue.
And you should hide behind the idea that it's all a joke and it's intentionally being nitpicky, while at the same time vehemently defending how nitpicky you get about movies because the movie industry is falling apart. We're the only thing that's going to save it.
This is the only criticism of Cinema Sins that has ever been made, by the way.
Oh, Cinema Sins? No, I'll start you with Binging with Babish, Nick. We got to bring that channel down.
That channel is very different from the impressions I've gotten.
I was talking about Jack Black's channel. He's a fucking monster. Someone has to stop this, man. Goodbye, everybody.